here, and today I am kind of doing like a mini haul sort of thing. And that's because this is actually the stuff that I got for my birthday, and my birthday was a month ago. It was over a month ago. It was October 1st, but because October is Inktober, I couldn't really do a haul video, so I wanted to do this basically when Inktober was over. So anyway, so basically the major thing I got was a bunch of delicious art supplies. Not that I eat them. I don't eat them. But I got a bunch of Winsor Newton pigment markers. Okay, so I've been really excited to try these. When they first sort of came out, I was initially really excited to try them because these are light fast, and that means that it won't fade over time if in direct sunlight. And regular alcohol markers none of them, even the artist grade ones, are light fast. So even the professional, the artist grade ones, they'll fade over time in direct sunlight. Which isn't great, but for selling purposes, for hanging pictures on the wall, it's really a lot better to have light fast materials. And so pigment markers are actually light fast. So when these came out, I was really excited, finally a light fast marker, but they're not alcohol markers. They're completely different. They're more like paint markers, and I wish I could tell you exactly what's in them, but it's basically just pigment. It's a pigment marker. It's kind of a paint marker, and they only work with special kinds of paper. And at the time when these first came out, all the paper that we had for them was the Winsor Newton marker paper, and that's what kind of turned me off of the pigment markers, because the marker paper, the Winsor Newton marker paper that these are designed for, is really, really thin and flimsy, and not something I would really want a finished piece on. I would want something heavier weight, right? So I wasn't interested for a while. But then as people started to use these more and more, it was kind of discovered that you can use these with Yupo paper. And Yupo paper is much easier to find than the Winsor Newton marker paper, pigment marker paper. It's much easier to find. It's fairly cheap. So when Yupo paper kind of first came out, or was out for a bit, Yupo paper is designed for watercolors, but it's designed in a way that does really strange things to watercolors, right? And I was actually not interested in the Yupo paper for what it was designed for, because it does like really weird things with watercolors, and it can look pretty cool, but you sort of have to have like a really, really, really loose style to enjoy it. And I don't know, it never seemed like something that I would be into. But funnily enough, while I wouldn't get the pigment markers without the Yupo paper, and I wouldn't get the Yupo paper without the pigment markers, those two combined made me just like leap for joy and like, yes, I can finally try these pigment markers. So I'm really excited to have them. My sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and my husband are the main ones who got me a lot of the pigment markers. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much, you guys. And before we get to testing these out a little bit, I did quickly want to show another thing that's not really art related, but it was something that I got for myself for my birthday, and I'm just really excited about it. So I'm not sure if the camera zoomed out enough, but I got a Star Trek messenger bag. And I know most of you probably do not care about this at all, and that's okay. But I've been eyeballing this bag for probably like 3 years on Think Geek, and I never really got it because, you know, it was kind of pricey, and every time it was like my birthday or Christmas or Mother's Day or whatever, and I would update my wish list on Amazon, I would push this like further down the list because there were always other things I wanted more at the time. And yeah, so I never got it. And then this went on sale big time on Think Geek, and yeah, because they're clearing it out, making way for new items, which is awesome. And I'm excited to see a lot of their new items because I love Think Geek. They got some really awesome stuff. So this was like more than half off, and I grabbed it as fast as I could. And this was my birthday present to myself. And yeah, I mean, I know it's not an art bag, but I do put like my art supplies and stuff in it. This has art supplies in it. And so when I go out and about and I do a little travel art stuff, I got a bag. Awesome. So now I want to kind of test out these not alcohol markers, these pigment markers. So I took one of these Yupo papers and I cut it up into like fourths. And we actually did this the day of my birthday party. It was my sister-in-law and me and my mother-in-law, and my daughters also got in on the fun. And so my first time using them was then, and I kind of tried to do my rows, the 10-second rows that I like to do. I tried to do that. It didn't turn out how I wanted it to look. Obviously, it's way too dark, but I learned a lot from it, and what I had learned was that you want to put on the lighter colors first, because once you put down some darker colors, those darker colors really spread, and that's what made my rose super, super dark here. So that was a lesson learned there. And my sister-in-law was messing around with this, just spreading it using the white pigment marker to spread some of the thing, to blend it. And I thought it might be fun to see if we can lift some of this and paint over something that has long been dried, because like I said, this is a month old. Both of these are a month old, so they're very, very dry. But pigment markers, and with Yupo paper, the pigment sits on top, and yes, it does dry, but you can lift, and I did actually lift a little bit here, but this was not long after this was done. So I kind of want to see how much will lift a month later, and if it doesn't really lift very much, how much we can paint over. So let's check it out. Let's see. All right, let's test this out. So I've got rolling markers everywhere. So these do not come with like a little stopper on them, so they are rolling all over my desk. So if that's a concern of yours, yeah, that's going on here. And excuse that noise, I just kicked something. All right, so let's try wetting this a little bit. I'm using some water. It's just water and just a utility towel, and I'm just wiping to see if any of this will come off at this point. Oh wow, it's starting to come off right here. Like I was thinking that this wasn't going to work, but it is starting to come off here. Okay, like it is starting to come off. I just ringed some water on here to spread around. If I scrub, it is starting to come off. So that's good. I don't know how much scrubbing the Yupo paper can take though. So I don't know if I should keep scrubbing and see, and basically go to the point where it won't take it anymore, or like it'll start to ruin the paper, or if I should stop at a certain point. But it is, like, a lot of it is coming off. Okay. Okay, so I've just scrubbed this a whole lot, and it is, you know, there's definitely a stain to it right here. I could have continued to scrub in this area, but frankly, I was tired of scrubbing. It has, like, almost completely come off over here. I don't know if the camera is picking this up at all, but it's almost completely come off right here. There's a hint of, like, this pinky purple that was there before. It's much darker over here, but I also didn't scrub as much over here. And I started to scrub this over here, but again, I was tired of scrubbing. So basically, if you scrub enough after it's completely dry and you it's waited a while, like I've said, this has been over a month. If you wait a really long time and you want to try to lift some stuff, it is liftable. It might still stain the paper, and the paper, by the way, is totally fine. Like, there's no damage to the paper at all from all that scrubbing, and I can hardly believe that, because that was a lot of scrubbing. Yeah, I could have gotten more over here, but like I said, I was tired of scrubbing. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with how much lifted off from the areas that I actually did the most work on, which was over here. Yeah, it's almost completely gone. There's a slight hint of the pink. All right, so that's that experiment. Now I kind of want to see if I can maybe salvage this rose a little bit. Maybe see if I can paint over top, and will that reactivate what's underneath? So let's check that out. So I'm gonna use the magenta color here. Oh, and these markers, on one side is a chisel nib, and on the other side is a bullet nib. So that's what the two sides are. It's very similar to a regular alcohol marker, but again, these are not alcohol markers. These are pigment markers. It's closer to like a paint marker. So I'm gonna try to paint over this, and it is definitely lifting from underneath. I'm definitely seeing it lift from underneath. Let's see. Okay, it is lifting the paint from underneath. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue this one, just because I don't want to waste the ink on this. I mean, I can try to see. Let me see if I wonder if the white one, so the white pigment marker is kind of the blending tool. They do have a colorless blender, which I do not have currently, but there is a colorless blender. But the white blender, people tend to really love, because it just, whoa, look at that. Wow. That was really white. Wow. It just does a good job at blending everything. So it does lighten things, but it also does a really good job blending. So it is a really good marker, and I can't speak right now, and I'm sorry for my stumbling words here, because I'm trying to focus on what I'm doing and talk at the same time, which is not a good combination for me. So let me see how this is going. All right, so the white is doing a pretty good job lifting up some of these colors here, and also blending it in. I'm going to use the pink now. The magenta color, see what we get here. Oh wow, it's really lifting up a lot of what's underneath. Now, the pigment markers do tend to be kind of a loose medium, and I do tend to be a bit more constrained with my artwork, not so loose, but I certainly enjoy going a looser route sometimes. Now, not as loose as the watercolor on Yupo, though. That's a little too crazy loose for me, so that's why I was never really interested in that. Just trying to see if I can get just a, like, this would be really good for, like, highlights. The white just does a really good job with that. It's starting to come together. I really don't want to spend too much of my ink on this one drawing, though. But it does look like it's salvaging a lot of the image down below, so that's good news for big projects that I might want to do in the future, where if I mess up, I can go back to it with some white, and I can salvage it a bit. Alright. Let's see. So it is, there's no label really, I don't think, saying what side is the chisel nib and what side is the bullet nib, but the stripe is closer to the chisel, I think, and the end caps, the bullet nib is smaller than the chisel nib. This cap is much bigger, and it's the cap that has the color listed on it. The other side does not have the color. Well, that did, it did bring a lightness to this, because it was very, very dark, and now it's not so bad. So, maybe I'll do more to that later, but I kind of just want to do a completely different piece and see where I go with that. So, I do have a blank page here. One of the ones from the page that I cut down. So, the Yupo paper is very slick, very soft. I think I'm going to sketch out like a leaf or something very simple. Let's see, it is finally starting to turn a bit autumn here, so that's nice. We're finally getting the leaves coming down, and when that big storm happened, it basically, right before the storm, it was still looking like summer. All the leaves were up in the trees, they were still kind of green, they were starting to turn orange, but definitely way later in the year than it normally does. But then when Tropical Storm Philippe hit, and that's what cut out all of our power for a while, it dumped all the leaves. So our yard is filled with autumn leaves now. Let me see. I think I'm just gonna do just a real rough leaf. So, yeah, I've just done a really simple leaf here, and I've actually even messed up a little bit, but because I'm going to paint over this, I'm not too worried about it. So, I decided to have a folded over part right here of the leaf, but I had to add in to kind of make it somewhat symmetrical, I had to add in the leaf, and I decided to go off the page with it. So it'll go off the page. And so there's some scribbliness here, but I am going to paint over a lot of this, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. So from learning from last time, it is best to go light to dark. So I'm going to use yellow first. I'm going to kind of paint all the way through. And I'm going to just go ahead and go over a lot of the green that I've already done here. I'm just gonna because it is picking up a lot of the green, and it's really moving it around, so it's really mixing in with the green, and that's fine. It gives it a nice chartreuse green to it, yellowy green, bright. And you can blend these with your fingers a little bit. I could put my fingers on here and really blend this out. Now I'm going to take the next darkest color I have here, which is Yellow Deep. This was Lemon Yellow, now I'm doing Yellow Deep. And I seem to like the chisel edge more, I think. With this at least. Normally I don't like the chisel edge, but this one's not so bad. I think I'm gonna bring in a darker color. This is what I'm a little nervous about because doing the darker colors is what really messed up my rose when I was first practicing this. So I am a bit nervous about adding in a dark color here. Just want to get some of these dark lines in. So this brown, I actually didn't come in any of the packs that I got for my birthday. None of the packs actually came with a brown or a black, so I ended up buying a brown and black from Dick Blick, and just to help, you know, complete the look a little bit. There's still other colors that I would love to get. I'd love to get some gray tones. Yeah, then they have a lot of other colors too that I'd love to get, but this was certainly a really nice array of colors to start out with. So I'm definitely really, really happy with this, and I'm so grateful for my family who got these for me. Right, so right now I'm using the sap green, which is a great nature color. Now these colors really mix in with the colors underneath them and the colors around them. So while it's kind of loose, you know, there's a streakiness to this that you don't get from alcohol markers. So some people might not be into that. I don't mind it if it's meant to be streaky, because there's a difference between streaky markers that you don't want to be streaky and streaky markers where it really does add to the look, and I would say that these are definitely the latter there. They're streaky, but they're streaky in a way that it seems like it's meant to be like that, you know what I mean? So I don't actually mind the streakiness of them. These blend really well. They almost blend too well. They're super blendy here. That was actually the problem I had when I first started using these, is that they blend so well that all the dark colors that I put on there blended in everywhere else and suddenly made the piece really, really dark and much darker than I wanted. This is why I'm extra careful now that I know that the dark colors blend out a lot. I'm extra careful not to disrupt that and to not cause my piece to get too muddy, because that's definitely the risk here. The risk is that it'll get too muddy. Okay, so instead of fussing with this a lot more, I finished up and let it dry and sit for a while, and it's been actually like a day or two since I finished this, and coming back to it, I'm actually really happy with it. I was getting a little fussy with it with the leaf, and that's definitely something you would have to be cautious about with the pigment markers. You can't really be overly fussy, and the more you work stuff, it starts to get a bit muddy. So yeah, so don't be too fussy with it. It's really what my advice would be for the pigment markers. But I am quite happy with how it turned out, even though I did get a little too fussy with it. I ended up using my fingers a lot for the spreading, and I'm gonna have to be careful with that in the future as well, because there's a lot of my fingerprints like in the marker. But you know, and I can see like fingerprints here and there from when it was still wet. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I am going to be using these for the next My Favorite Animal thing. So I'm a little nervous about that because that's a bigger piece. I might try, before I do that, I might do another video where I'm doing a smaller piece, doing another pigment marker. But yeah, overall, I'm quite happy with it. So if you are interested in the pigment markers, then I hope this was helpful in determining what sort of technique to use with them. And yeah, thanks for joining me, and later, creators. Bye!